and good to have you back on this edition of the Urban Debate. Through this week, it's been extremely action-packed, primarily because citizens across the country, first in the Northeast, then across universities, the Young India, and now pretty much in many other cities of across the country in all regions, have decided to speak up against the Citizenship Amendment Act. Today was day 6 of the protest, and it continued. The situation remained tense in several parts of Uttar Pradesh as protests against the Anti-Citizenship Act continued there. In some parts, there was violence that was reported. Yesterday, it was primarily limited to just Lucknow and a couple of other cities. Today, at least across 6 different cities, starting with Gorakhpur, where protesters were seen pelting stones at the police. Similar protests erupted in Ghaziabad, Meerut, where police resorted to baton charge. There was a lot of heavy stone pelting that took place in Firozabad and Bhadohi. Protesters were lathi charged in Bahraich, while vehicles were vandalized in Bulandshahr. Internet services remain suspended in 22 cities. And the news that's just come in is 5 people have been killed in anti-citizenship protest-related violence in Uttar Pradesh. Let me go across to Prashant, who's joining us live with more information. Prashant, 5 deaths spread across the state of Uttar Pradesh because that's the amount of violence that we've seen. What can you tell us? What transpired in UP today?
Well, Tanvi, you see what happened in the state of Uttar Pradesh yesterday was something that was completely unprecedented, especially in Lucknow. You know, Lucknow, it's a city of peace, it's a city of love, but the visuals that came in from Lucknow were quite shocking. I personally have not seen something like that happening in Lucknow for the past many years. But despite that, despite a high-level meeting that was shared at the residence of Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath late at night, despite the fact that Section 144 was in place, many thought that today things would be relatively calmer. But surprisingly and shockingly, things went bizarre even today in districts like Pilibhit, Bagpat, Gorakhpur, Yogi's home turf, and Kanpur and Firozabad, where we can confirm to our viewers right now that at least 5 people have been confirmed are dead in the protests that erupted in various parts of the states. And protesters did come out on streets in large numbers. Despite the fact that Section 144 was in place, the people were allowed to assemble. How did it happen? One doesn't know. It's a matter of investigation, but that is the reality. People did assemble, and as a result of which we saw widespread violence across the state of Uttar Pradesh, especially in Western Uttar Pradesh, where even now, as I speak to you, I am getting information of violence actually being reported from the districts of Meerut and connecting Hapur. So clearly, Western UP is not peaceful at all, and that's the reason of a worry for the UP government. But will the UP government that was absolutely on toes when the Ayodhya verdicts were delivered, nothing had happened? How is it possible that the UP police did not have any idea about the kind of protest, the magnitude of protest that was lying under the wraps in the state of Uttar Pradesh? So many questions are being asked of the UP government. How soon does the answer come? And how soon will the investigation actually finish? Is something only the time will tell. But for now, people in the state of Uttar Pradesh, the government is only urging people to maintain calm and maintain restraint. But the fact is, people in lakhs of people are actually coming out on the streets protesting. We'll have to see, Tanvi, what transpires tomorrow, because tomorrow also we might have some protests in the Western UP and also.
But Prashant, very quickly, after what we have seen yesterday and today, has the has the government now become a little bit more precautious? Have they called in for additional security troops from elsewhere? What is the plan of action to ensure this doesn't repeat tomorrow? Have people been taken into detention before in anticipation of what may go wrong?
Well, you see, everything was quite clear in front of the administration even yesterday, Tanvi, and that's the reason perhaps why the Chief Minister had done a video conferencing with all the DMs and SSPs late at night, 11:30 to be precise. Strict orders were given, internet was scrapped. So many were expecting that things would be set all right today. But as we speak, the Additional Chief Secretary, Mr. Avnish Awasthi, was telling us that perhaps 5 people have died, and tomorrow they are now completely on their toes. For the fact that they were completely on their toes in Lucknow today, we did not see many protests there, but for the fact that there was some sort of laxity in deployment and also in action on ground, we have seen protests, sporadic protests and violent protests from various parts of Uttar Pradesh. So clearly, policing needs to be stepped up, and also answers need to come in from the chief minister, who's also the home minister. Will the answers come? No one knows. But when this protest stop is something the
Okay.
entire Uttar Pradesh is asking.
Well, I actually also want to just highlight what happened specifically in Meerut. While we were showing 6 different cities where violence really took place through the day. Prashant, thanks so much for bringing us an update on that. But in Meerut in Uttar Pradesh, protesters resorted to violence, set vehicles ablaze. They also targeted a police outpost. They also attempted to set the police outpost ablaze. And then they were dispersed by the cops, who rushed to the spot just in time. Policemen as well as civilians were injured in this face-off that took place.
शाम के समय में भारी संख्या में कुछ उपद्रवी लोग सड़कों पर आए थे, जिनके द्वारा पथराव किया गया और उनके द्वारा फायरिंग भी मंचों से की गई। और इसमें पुलिस द्वारा जो कार्रवाई की गई उसमें करीब 1.5 दर्जन लोगों को हिरासत में लिया गया है। इसके अलावा और भी लोग चिन्हित किए गए हैं, जिनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई सुनिश्चित की जा रही है। इनके द्वारा जो पथराव हुआ है उसमें करीब आधा दर्जन पुलिसकर्मी थे जिनको हल्की चोटें आई हैं, और हमारे आरएएफ के 2 जवान थे जिनको छर्रे लगे थे। सबका इलाज करा दिया गया है, सब लोग ठीक है और 1.5 दर्जन लोग गिरफ्तार हुए हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त ये भी सूचना मिली है कि जो दंगाई थे, इन्होंने फायरिंग जो की है उसमें आपस में भी इनके किसी व्यक्ति को गोली लगी है। उसको भी हम लोग सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि किस व्यक्ति को गोली लगी है, उसको सत्यापित करने का हम लोग प्रयास कर रहे हैं। बाकी इन्होंने आगजनी की है। आगजनी ये एक चौकी के पास, इस्लामाबाद चौकी के पास आए थे। जब फोर्स ने इनको भगाया तो भागते समय इन्होंने एक बाइक सड़क के किनारे जलाई है। फायर टेंडर आ गया, उसकी आग तत्काल बुझा ली गई थी और वो भी सारे लोग चिन्हित कर लिए गए थे। उन पर भी कार्रवाई सुनिश्चित की जा रही है। बाकी किसी चौकी, किसी थाने में किसी प्रकार की कोई आगजनी नहीं है और स्थिति जनपद में पूरी तरह से सामान्य है।
Let's also now turn our attention to what happened in the national capital. High drama prevailed at Jama Masjid in Delhi after Delhi police tried to detain the Bhim army chief Chandrashekhar Azad. However, the cops in fact were unable to detain him after the crowd started shouting slogans against the police. The cops then had to forcibly move Azad from one location to the other in order to control any untoward or stop any untoward incident from taking place. This was earlier in the day. Take a look.
Chandrashekhar Azad amidst the crowd that is there. You can clearly see Chandrashekhar Azad being detained by the police officials. There you see the PRO of Delhi police with Chandrashekhar Azad. The huge crowd has gathered at the outside of Jama Masjid after the Friday prayers. This is the situation outside Jama Masjid. Chandrashekhar Azad hasn't been given the permission to carry out a march from Jama Masjid to Jantar Mantar, and the police officials have already clarified that he will be detained the moment he comes out of the Jama Masjid, and he has come out of the Jama Masjid now. You can see in the visuals police official detaining Chandrashekhar Azad who is of the Bhim army, who had given a call for the march from here to Jantar Mantar. This is the situation of Jama Masjid on Friday. This is after prayers. People have gathered in large number protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act. Chandrashekhar Azad, holding the Constitution of India and Baba Bhim Rao Ambedkar's photo, has been detained by the police officials.
हमारे देश के संविधान आर्टिकल 15 को बदल के जो सरकार अपना संविधान लागू कर रही है, अब आप एक बात बताइए, 70 साल पुराना, 50 साल पुराना प्रूफ हम कहां से दें? कैसे पता करोगे आपके इंडियन हैं? प्यार बांटो, देश नहीं।
सरकार ये कहती है, कल भी सरकार ने कहा कि CAA के बाद
नहीं, लिखत के अंदर दे दें, लिखत के अंदर दे दें, वोट्स नहीं, लिखत के अंदर।
पूरा हिंदुस्तान बड़ा भाई खिलाफ है, तो क्यों नहीं हो रहे वापसी है? चलो एक आदमी हो, 2 आदमी है, 9 आदमी है, पूरा हिंदुस्तान खिलाफ है भाई।
सर मेरा कहना ये है कि उन्होंने NRC और कैप को निकालने के बाद ये पक्का जाहिर कर दिया कि अपना बेटा यतीम कर दिया और दूसरा बेटा गोदी ले लिया।
Scores of protesters were stopped at Delhi Gate later in the evening then, when they were heading and marching towards India Gate to voice their dissent against this new law and the proposed NRC. In fact, they were seen sloganeering, and then at one point when they were stopped and the crowd got angry and agitated, they first began to hurl shoes at the police personnel, didn't stop there, started pelting stones. A car was then set ablaze by the protesters. Take a look.
ये बैरिकेडिंग के उस साइड थे ये प्रदर्शनकारी जिन्होंने आगजनी की है। हम कोशिश करेंगे कि आपको ताज़ा विजुअल्स ला कर दें। ये देखिए, आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर आगजनी हुई है। आप देखिए यहाँ पर आग को बुझाने की कोशिश है। आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे आग को बुझाने की कोशिश की आप देख सकते हैं पुरजोर कोशिश हो रही है कि आप देखिए दिल्ली पुलिस की तरफ से कोशिश की जा रही है कि ये जो कार जल रही है को दिखाएंगे। यहाँ पे वो गाड़ी है जो अभी जल रही है और पुलिस ने कहा है जो भी लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं उनको गाड़ी से पीछे हटने को कहा है, क्योंकि वो आग को बुझाने में काबू नहीं पा पाए और इसके कारण आप देख सकते हैं कि जो कार है वो जल रही है। यहाँ पर कोशिश ये है कि वाटर कैनन वाली गाड़ी को लाकर यहाँ पर आग को बुझाया जाए, कोशिश यही है। इसलिए अगर आप देखें इसमें जो गाड़ी के अंदर जो आग लग रही है उसे बुझाने का प्रयास अभी भी दिल्ली पुलिस करेगी ज़रूर और इसके लिए वो वाटर कैनन की गाड़ी दूसरी तरफ से लाई जा रही है। अगर आप बात करें यहाँ पर प्रदर्शनकारी जमात है, आप देख सकते हैं वो कार है जिससे आप देख सकते हैं वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है। ये विजुअल्स हैं जिसमें दिल्ली पुलिस की जो गाड़ी है वो कोशिश कर रही है कि कैसे आग पे काबू पाया जाए गाड़ी के। ये दिल्ली डिप्टी कमिश्नर ऑफ पुलिस का ऑफिस है जहां पर ये गाड़ी जलाई गई है। गाड़ी के अंदर से वो आवाज़ें आ रही थी, इसीलिए दिल्ली पुलिस ने कहा कि कोई एक्सप्लोजन हो सकता है, इसलिए मीडिया कर्मी कृपया पीछे जाएं। आप देख सकते हैं वाटर कैनन का तेज पानी की धार भी जो आग को है कितनी देर लग रही है काबू पाने में इस आग पर। ये डिप्टी कमिश्नर ऑफ पुलिस जो है उनका ऑफिस है मंदार, उसके सामने ये कार को आग लगाया गया, कार में आग लगाई गई, जिसके बाद अब दिल्ली पुलिस कोशिश कर रही है कि कैसे इस आग पर काबू पाया जाए। मौजूदा हालात आपको यहाँ पर दिख जाएंगे। जब प्रदर्शनकारी यहाँ पे बैठे थे पहले कोशिश थी कि कैसे वाटर कैनन से हटाया जाए, प्रदर्शनकारी यहीं पर थे, यहीं से पथराव किया जा रहा था। दूसरी तरफ जब वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल हुआ उसी बीच हमने ये देखा कि एक जो गाड़ी थी उसे जला दिया गया। यहाँ पर ये गाड़ी के अंदर से वो एक्सप्लोजन हुआ है और इसीलिए शायद दिल्ली पुलिस ने कहा था कि गाड़ी से उचित दूरी बनाकर रखनी होगी। भी आपको अगर दिखाएं तो सड़क जो दूसरी तरफ है वो सड़क पूरी ही तरह से खाली है। अब जो पुलिस के अधिकारी हैं, जो रैपिड एक्शन फोर्स की टीम है, वो बैरिकेड के इस तरफ आ चुकी हैं। अगर अभी भी आप देखें तो वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल जो है वो बंद कर दिया गया है, मगर जो गाड़ी है उस पर अभी आप उसमें देख सकती हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं जो आग है वो दिख रही है आपको। प्रदर्शनकारी तो हट गए हैं लेकिन उनके द्वारा जो नुकसान यहाँ पे किया गया है वो कहीं ना कहीं नहीं हट पा रहा और दिल्ली पुलिस को यहाँ पर काबू करने में इस पे परेशानी आ रही है।
Well, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has now reacted to this ongoing protest and, you know, the linkage of NRC and Citizenship Amendment Act. And she says that when the NRC process has not even begun and when it begins, it will not be without consultation of the stakeholders or talking to people. She's also slammed the opposition, saying that some parties are linking the Citizenship Act to the NRC, which hasn't even started. So one has to keep in mind the government is now beginning to send out these messages. We earlier in the evening had an unnamed official of the government also saying that any suggestions regarding this law are welcome. Here is the finance minister herself saying that when the process of a nationwide NRC starts, they will speak to people, they will hear the voice of people, and they will consult with all the stakeholders. Let's see and wait and watch when that happens, and if this is enough really to pacify the people who are out on the streets right now. Also, update coming in, Priyanka Gandhi is now at the India Gate. Let's listen in.
किस स्थिति में डाल रहे हैं देश को? जिस तरह से नोटबंदी के लिए आयोग ने खड़ा किया था, उसी तरह से अब ये चाह रहे हैं कि इस मुद्दे पे लाइन में पूरा देश खड़ा हो। लेकिन हिंसा इफेक्ट होगा इससे। हिंसा भी हो रही है। जो अमीर है वो तो पासपोर्ट दिखा देगा, जो गरीब है वो क्या करेगा, जो डेली वेज के लेबर हैं वो क्या करेंगे? हिंसा भी हो रही है। जो डेली वेज के लेबर है, जो I agree with you. I've just come to say hello. I've come. Yeah. I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. But no, I understand that. I'm fully with you. And in fact, that's why I came quietly. I don't want to make a drama here. I just came for solidarity towards you. Okay, and to say we're with you and we stand with you.
Ma'am, violence.
And listen, if you prefer, we'll go quietly.
Ma'am, violence भी हो रही है.
हाँ, कोई मैसेज है ना? She has something to say. कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
मैम, violence भी हो रही है. Violence के लिए कुछ कहेंगी आप?
जो भी प्रदर्शन है शांतिपूर्वक होने चाहिए.
देश के युवाओं के लिए कोई मैसेज देना चाहेंगे मैम?
Well, this would have been the second time that she came to India Gate, but Priyanka Gandhi now making a point about NRC and nationwide NRC and saying that how will that work out for the underprivileged, for the poor who don't have their documents. It was also interesting that she came there to meet some people and show their solidarity, but there was a lady there, and you can see her in the cameras, who says that, well, this protest is not about you and people like you. And she says, I know that. Priyanka Gandhi actually responded. She at least acknowledged that there were protesters there who were objecting to the presence of politicians. And Priyanka Gandhi then said that I know that, I'm simply here to express my support. Now, let's talk about what we're going to tell you in the next 1.5 hours. We are going to focus on simply the facts. Even now, viewers, many of us are extremely confused over the Citizenship Amendment Act, over the National Registry of Citizens, which currently is only applicable in Assam, but the government does say that they want to take it across the country. Those who are protesting, do they know all the facts? There is a lot of misinformation that's also doing the rounds. So we have decided that in the next 120 minutes or so, we will decode the anti-citizenship protests for you. And here are the big issues, here are the big questions that we will look to answer. Question number one, of course, is will the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act, impact you? Is that why people are so worried? Who does it impact? Is that why they're out on the streets? Question number two, what is the NRC? That's the other new thing that's now emerged. The Parliament only passed the Citizenship Amendment Act. What's the new NRC everybody seems to be talking about? Now, how was NRC implemented in Assam? That's the only state in our country where this has taken place. We will give you those details, help you understand how was it done there. What does a national NRC really entail? Does it mean that all of us have to give our citizenship proof, our birth certificates, what documents will be needed, when will it happen, how will it happen? We'll give you all those details. We'll also tell you what are the implications of NRC plus CAA. And of course, the big debate. You may have heard many versions. We'll get into it again. Is the CAA violative of the Constitution? So these are largely the things that we are going to look at. Let me first start with the point number one. What is the CAA? The Citizenship Act existed in our country, as in our Constitution. What the government has done now has amended it. And the amendment that has been brought in largely refers to 6 religions from 3 different nations. People of these 6 religions who came as refugees or illegal immigrants to our country from Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, this is what the amendment is about. Now, who are these people? What's the cutoff date or their eligibility criteria? They should have been in this country, in our country, before December 31st, 2014. It's not as if there are 100,000 people standing at the borders today, this law applies to them. No, it doesn't. Does it apply across the country though? Yes, it does. For now, the government says parts of Northeast that come under the 6th schedule will not have this law applicable, but it's largely a rhetorical point, because if you're a citizen of this country, you're a citizen everywhere. Your rights as an Indian citizen will not vanish just because you enter one part of our country. We will go angle by angle and give you more facts and details, and we have experts who are with us. Justice Saldana, former judge of the Bombay High Court, with us, and Vinay Tiwari, our managing editor, also with us this evening. Justice Saldana, thank you for joining us this evening. Do you believe that a lot of people are now getting confused between what the NRC may be and what Citizenship Amendment Act is? We already had a Citizenship Act, Justice Saldana. The amendment is largely about these 3 countries.
Tanvi, it is the recent legislation, that is the amendment, that has triggered off all of this. And I was a little pained to hear a little slightly earlier on your channel that one of the ministers makes a statement that we will look into objections, we will invite suggestions now. My view of the matter is very simple, and I'm sure most people will agree with it, that this process should have been done before introducing the bill and before passing it. The bill has already become law, and now you say that we will invite suggestions. Now, should this not have been done earlier? Anyway, it's for the government to look into that, because it's not too late for them to rethink, it's not too late for them to relook, and it's not too late also, if the amendments are warranted, to bring about amendments.
Okay.
So this is with regard to the procedure.
Just for
now,
understanding. Go ahead, please. Yes, go ahead.
The other aspect is that from the very mass reaction, there may be political opposition to many moves of the government. Politics is a different field altogether. But if you look at the reaction that has taken place, it's right from the students to the members of almost all communities all over the country. There is a lot of worry and there's a lot of concern. Now, merely turning around and saying that you don't worry because Indian Muslims will be safe, so on and so forth. I personally feel, this is my view, I personally feel that there was no need to have drawn a distinction between one community and the other. This is the bottom line. This is what has started all the trouble. Now you can find out where people have come from,
right,
or that there are scientific methods of ascertaining. But you've also got to look at ground realities. One of the areas that is being focused on is that all communities, not only the Muslim community, all communities, I belong to the Christian communities, my community is the same, all communities in this country have a very large number of poor people, illiterate people, people who do not possess documents and who will not be able to produce documents. So you've got to have a proper investigative procedure. Now, what has happened in Assam has not been very satisfactory. And then even under the law, they say that we have found some 18,000 or 18 lakhs, I don't know what the figure is,
yes,
people who according to us are not eligible for citizenship.
Yes.
Now, this refugee problem, Tanvi, is a global problem. The whole of Europe, I've traveled in many of the countries for professional work. In Europe, it's a very serious problem.
Yes.
Now,
but,
even as
you
far
know, Justice
as
Saldana, you will agree that at some point where we have moved from the whole objection and protest to the Citizenship Amendment Act and the debate over the constitutionality of that and whether that's constitutional or not constitutional, to now saying, oh, we are more fearful of what may come across or may happen when nationwide NRC has taken place. And today, honestly, I just want to highlight what the two issues are and where they may overlap. But please stay on with us. I just also want to say good evening to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, a three-time member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha, of course, an eminent senior counsel at the Supreme Court and a senior Congress spokesperson as well. Mr. Manu Singhvi, thank you so much for joining us on this. Do you believe that somewhere people are getting confused, or is the concern now largely about a nationwide NRC and not the amended Citizenship Act?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me? Band ho gaya. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Go ahead,
please. Speak up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are very many substantive heads of objections. There is a very strong constitutional objection of wrong classification based on religion, and the details of it will be very interesting when we come to it. There is a strong international law argument. It actually violates international treaties India has signed. There is a strong argument about violating regional accords, Assam and Tripura being two accords out of many more. But now you're asking me not these three things on which I have a lot of interesting material, but asking me about confused. Now it is very easy, and I think the government would like to use the word confused. The people are not confused at all. It's nice for the government to say they are either confused or they are provoked by the left, by the Congress, by the TMC, etc., etc. The people have seen through it being what it is. A, please don't dehyphenate NRC and CAA. Unless people eat grass, nobody is going to accept dehyphenation. We know why they have brought it. They know that we know why they have brought it. And both of us know that the people know as to why they brought it. The reason is, A, to give an ex post facto legitimacy to a large blunder in Assam, which they did not expect the numbers to reveal what it revealed. The second is to prepare in advance to give a similar stamp of legitimacy for the proposed nationwide NRC. Now, howsoever Mr. Amit Shah may go black and blue in his face trying to dehyphenate these things, they are inextricably intertwined. The people who fall under certain communities, certain religions in the old mixed up NRC of Assam will be automatically, in a blanket sense, given citizenship to certain categories under this act. The people who will be similarly placed after the national NRC, God knows how long it will take, how much utal-putal it will do in the country, will also be similarly segregated, and some will be given citizenship. Both will happen on the basis of religion. So people are not confused. They are scared.
Okay. But
they are divided. They are apprehensive. And I would be, if I was living in a country and I was living in a foreign country which had these things, I would feel
here is where my doubt comes from. I understand.
They're not confused at all. The government is confused.
I understand people can be scared because they don't know what's going to happen next. They can be scared because we've seen what's happened in Assam with the NRC. Legitimate Indians have struggled with their documentation work, and if tomorrow every Indian begins to go through the same struggle, it's understandable. But I don't understand the connect, Mr. Singhvi. How can we say that if I am unable to prove my citizenship as an Indian, I can still be included under the CAA? How is that? I still don't have my documents. What is it the government will see in me to say, okay, but you can be considered a Pakistani Hindu, come, you can be part of us?
It's very simple.
Yes.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Let me try and oversimplify it, but make it straight. Assume now you have 19 lakh people who are who have been found to be, the number in the NRC of Assam. We don't know the actual figures, but it is believed from the unrest in the BJP in Assam, I'm going by common sense.
Yes.
There are a very large number, overwhelming number of those 19 lakhs are non-Muslims. Something unexpected for the BJP. I'm giving you a concrete example and answer to your question. Now assume that, say, 13 lakhs of those, I'm just assuming, nobody has done a census, but the outcry of the BJP appears to suggest this. Suppose 13 of them are non-Muslims. Now, therefore, you have 13 people who are not found to have citizenship documents, who are non-Muslims, and let me assume that of those 13, about 7 lakhs or 8 lakhs are from the chosen 3 countries and belong to the chosen 5 religions. Are you with me till now?
Yes.
So we've come from 19 lakhs to about 10 lakhs or 9 lakhs or 8 lakhs, whatever the figure is. Those 8 lakhs, irrespective of any persecution, irrespective of any other further inquiry, would be entitled to get citizenship by merely saying 3 things. One, that we are from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, or Pakistan. Obviously, they have to prove something to do with that. It's easy to prove that. Second, that we are not Muslims, we are not Jews. Thirdly, that we claim orally that we were persecuted. Nothing more is required after that. This act says that 2 things you are forgetting. This act says that proceeding against these very 7 lakh people for being non-citizens or for illegal, the word is illegal immigrants, those proceedings will end, they'll abate, they'll cease.
Okay.
2, they'll be entitled to apply. 3, the entitlement requires nothing but 3 things. A birthmark of 3 countries, a birthmark of 5 religions, and a claim to persecution unverified.
But, okay.
That's it.
Okay. But how does that
This is the
pose any
simplest
danger to
way,
any
apart
current
from the
Indian
constitutional
citizen?
argument or international law argument, apart from anything else.
But how does that pose danger to any current Indian citizen? If I don't make it to this list,
that's
I
a
can't
different
prove
question.
that I am from Afghanistan.
No. Nobody said. No. 1 minute. That's another myth which Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi are spreading. What they are saying is, please rest assured, the Citizenship Act does not take away your citizenship. Oh, we are very grateful. We should fall over ourselves thanking you. Who said in the first place that the Citizenship Act is taking away citizenships?
Correct.
It would be very difficult under the Constitution that a citizenship once granted can be taken away. Nobody is saying, only Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah are saying. The point is not that it's being taken away. The point is it has been discriminatorily granted. Out of the 19 lakhs, why don't the balance 9 lakhs also get citizenship? They are not going to get citizenship. They are going to be excluded. They are going to be deported as illegal migrants.
Okay.
So Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi have very cleverly changed the terms of discourse. Nobody is objecting to this. This is not an act which can, because under the Constitution, if I give you citizenship, it's well nigh impossible to take it away from you.
Okay.
Nobody has said so. It's like putting an argument into your mouth and then triumphantly shooting it down. I'm not arguing that. Nobody is arguing that. The argument is that of the 19 lakhs, 7 or 8 or 9 chosen few would get on a discriminatory basis. And then, of course, I have several legal arguments what's discriminatory. The choice of 3 countries, the choice of 5 religions, the fact that persecution is a catchword, magical word, the fact that you make a selection based on multiple citizenships. What you're doing is, you're saying you are a special citizenship. You are an illegal immigrant, a lesser citizen. A third category will be the ordinary man seeking through ordinary procedures.
Okay. Mr. Singhvi, since you wanted to discuss...
high degree going on.
Since you wanted to also talk more about the constitutionality of CAA itself. Now, one of the arguments that is also being put by the other side is that no, it doesn't go against Article 14. It has nothing to do with that at all. It's not unconstitutional because otherwise, why would you have, say, example, policies like reservation? Reservation is based on religion and is based on caste. If that's not unconstitutional, then why should this be?
Please let me answer it as simply as possible for the viewers. Now we're talking only law. I've answered the non-legal questions already. Now we're talking only law. First, tell me a single reservation in this country for 75 years which you have found based on religion. Please tell me. I'll be happy to know. There were 2 or 3 attempts, including by Congress governments in Andhra, BJP governments in Maharashtra, which said that we will reserve because of we'll reserve for Muslims in Andhra, for example. It was struck down by Andhra High Court. Appeal is pending in Supreme Court. Please tell me in 70 years which Prime Minister, which political party, which minister has actually passed a law saying I will give or not give on the basis of religion. You can't even do it on caste. You know that. All the reservations are talking about are based on class, C-L-A-S-S. Now you are forgetting class, forgetting caste, you are talking of reservation. You are giving the analogy of reservation, but using religion. Point number 1. Point number 2. Take a simple example. You have a room. Please assume, please don't forget that where you are sitting in your studio is a room of 100 refugees actually sitting in India. Assume your room is a camp. Not refugees, the wrong word. Individuals who are alleged to be illegal migrants.
Yes.
And assume in that room they are from 10 countries with 10 religions. Right where you are sitting in the studio. Article 14 violation number 1. Those 100 from 10 countries are straight away cut down to 40. Assume only 40 are from 3 chosen countries. So discrimination number 1. There are 10 neighboring countries, but you choose only 3 and cut down the 100 to 40. Then further from the 40, you cut down another 15 because they are either Muslims or Jews. So only 5 religions are included. So 40 becomes 25. Number 3, this is discrimination number 2. Discrimination number 3, you have reduced a room full of actual alleged illegal migrants of 100 to a eligible category of 25. Now when these 25 apply, all the balance 75 are deemed not to be eligible for citizenship under this route, under this favored route. Number 4, all these 25 are deemed to be eligible for citizenship under this favored route. Number 5, none of these 25 have to do any proof of persecution.
Okay.
There's no inquiry, proof of persecution. By the very fact, you are deeming that Afghanistan always per se persecutes every non-Muslim. You are deeming that Bangladesh per se persecutes every non-Muslim. Now you are creating multiple citizenships. If this is not Article 14, I'd like to know what is. What's the point of giving absolutely foolish examples which we are finding from coming from the government about reservation? Please give me a single reservation based on the fact that you are a Muslim or a Jew and you are not a Muslim or a Jew.
So the argument then, Mr. Singhvi, is it's simply about...
If I was to reserve because you are a Rajput and I am a non-Rajput, even that is illegal. Only you can do it on class. Caste comes within class for an extent of evaluation. But even you can't do a reservation on caste. Leave aside religion.
Okay, that's an interesting
Prime Minister and his Home Minister have not opened the Constitution
clarification.
of India.
I hope people have a clearer idea now. My other question though, is the fight then simply about who gets a bigger favor? Because obviously for these people, the entire process gets easier and fast-tracked. Government says it's not as if we are denying citizenship to any Muslim, even from these countries. They can go through the regular route and get citizenship. So where is the discrimination?
Exactly. Now you are coming closer to the truth. Now you are coming closer to the truth. Remember, all of us are sitting in your room of 100. It's your room, your studio is the camp. You have suddenly reduced 100 to 25. These 25 get a fast track benefit. Others don't get any such benefit. The very fact that they are languishing for decades as illegal migrants means they have no hope in hell of getting citizenship. Because there is no favored few. For these 25, by the way, the same cases are pending of illegal migrants as the other 75. But there is a section in this act which says those cases shall cease and abate.
Okay.
We're talking law now, we're talking discrimination.
Yes.
And if the other 75 could have got citizenship so easily, why are the whole 100 languishing for the last several decades? There's no way they can get it. Because these are the ones, like the Assamese 19 lakhs, who've been found to be with imperfect documents. So it's only it's only what is known as Joan of Arc argument that, or Marie Antoinette's argument that what does it matter if these guys get bread? You can have cake at least. Why don't you have cake?
All right, Mr. Singhvi.
He can have theoretically cake. He doesn't have the wherewithal to get cake.
Well, so I am sure that this will get fought at the Supreme Court, and it will then become clearer to us on what really are the constitutionality and legalities of it. But as always, it's great to have you with us and explain some of the interesting aspects of the CAA as well as the NRC. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations. Thank you so much for joining us on the Urban Debate. Now, as I've been telling our viewers, we are going to break it down into various examples. Abhishek Manu Singhvi here was also explaining to us some of those concepts. Now, the big question is, what is the NRC that we are really talking about? The NRC, viewers, is actually the National Registry of Citizens. Now, that's the second angle that we are looking at. And the NRC so far has only been implemented in Assam, and I will bring you the details of how it was done in Assam in just a bit. But to understand the NRC itself is important right now, because the government has now decided that they are going to take this national. Amit Shah, the Home Minister himself, multiple times in the Parliament as well as outside the Parliament, has said in interviews, has said that yes, this is what we are going to do. The next time I come to ask for votes, which is in 2024, this would have been implemented across the country. Aarti is joining us with more on NRC and how it was done in Assam, because that's the only benchmark we have about this very interesting concept. Aarti?
That's right, Tanvi. The NRC currently is applicable only in Assam, and that's all that we have to go for currently. Now, what is the NRC? It is essentially a list of citizens of India. Now, in NRC, if you have certain documents, you can prove that you are a citizen of India. The NRC is the National Registry of citizens. It is applicable only in Assam, and this was done as a result of a Supreme Court order. Now, Assam has a history of illegal migration coming, or the influx of migrants, especially from Bangladesh, and as a result of this, there was large-scale protests in the mid-80s in Assam. Now, to resolve that issue was the Assam Accord was signed in 1985 by the Rajiv Gandhi government and the Assam Students' Union that essentially said that all migrants who have come to India on or before the 24th of March 1971 will be considered citizens. But the NRC itself has got nothing to do with religion. Unlike the CAA, this is religion neutral, and you can be part of this list irrespective of your religion if you have certain documents with you. Now, it was, as I was mentioning, it was implemented in Assam with March 24th, 1971 as the cutoff date. This was a particular date that was agreed on by the Rajiv Gandhi government and the Assam Students' Union. So anybody who has come to Assam before or on this date is considered to be an Indian citizen provided they have certain documents. Now, the NRC says that the center will be implemented. The NRC, in fact, I beg your pardon, is going to be implemented across India. This is what the center has been repeatedly saying. Now, they're completely unclear on what the contours of this particular NRC are, what are the documentation that is going to be required for this NRC, but they have expressed their intent very clearly to bring a national pan-India NRC, which is still not clear when and where it is going to be done. Now, let's come to the specifics of how NRC was implemented in Assam itself, because this was a mammoth task and it was a task that has been spanning decades. Now, the NRC in Assam in itself was a result of a Supreme Court order, and it was done under Supreme Court provisions. Now, the NRC in Assam started off with the promise. It was one of the promises of the Rajiv Gandhi government in 1985, and that is how it was implemented.
So that's as far as the NRC itself is concerned, Aarti, and since we have you with us, let's also take a look at how NRC exercise was carried out in Assam, because that's the main problem. The fear that some people have is because we've seen there, after the first round was done with almost a decade-long exercise, at the instructions of the Supreme Court, there were still lakhs of people who didn't make it to the list. So there is obviously a lot of apprehension. Give us an insight into how the process worked in Assam.
Right. Now, Tanvi, the first and only registry that was in Assam was in 1951. Since then, this particular list of citizens of India who reside in Assam has not been updated. Now, because of that, the NRC was one of the promises that was made under the Assam Accord that was signed in 1985. As I was explaining, Assam has had an extreme history of illegal migration as a result of the war, as a result of the porous borders. So there have been so many illegal migrants flowing into Assam, and as a result of that, there was a lot of tension in the region, which led to student unrest and protests. To resolve all of that, the Assam Accord was signed by the Rajiv Gandhi government, and 1971 was the cutoff date. Essentially, anybody who comes to Assam or who came to Assam before 1971, March 1971, was considered to be a citizen, and their descendants also a citizen, provided they have certain documents. Now, the NRC in 2013, the Supreme Court said that this particular act, this particular promise, which was made in 1985 to implement it, has to begin. It has, despite the 1985 accord, there was no progress made until it reached the Supreme Court. In 2013, the Supreme Court kick-started the process, and it was a mammoth process. There are these seva kendras that were set up across. There were so many. It was a mammoth task in the sense to get each and everyone in the remotest places to come, register, submit these documents. A final list was submitted on the 31st of August of 2019, and in this list, 19 lakh people were excluded and 3.11 crore people were considered to be Indian citizens. Now, there's a lot of discussion on what are the documents that you would have to submit if there is in fact a national NRC. We don't know that just yet, but in Assam, to prove your ancestry was Indian or to prove that you already were in India for these many years, you had to submit documents and some of them included your land or tenancy records, your citizenship certificate, an LIC policy or any government issued license. Now, there is a series of documents, in fact, that you were expected to produce, or at least one of them. I've just given you a slight example of that. We don't know whether a national NRC would have such provisions, but at least in Assam, it's a process that has left many people unhappy because the BJP was not very happy with the numbers. The BJP was not very happy with the fact that a lot of Hindus, in fact, were in that list of excluded people. But at the end of the day, on 31st of August 2019, we found out that 19 lakh people have been excluded from this final list.
Yeah.
Now, those 19 people still have the option of appealing to a foreigners tribunal, and they still have some remedies left. What is unclear is whether or not they will be deported, and if so, who is going to take them?
Okay, Aarti, thanks so much for putting, bringing us all of those facts, all of that information. These are verified facts that we have put out for our viewers to help them understand better NRC and especially how it was done in Assam. And in fact, to what Aarti was saying and Abhishek Manu Singh was saying earlier, even after the second revised draft register, what has emerged is that many people who are outsiders have actually managed to make it to the list, and those who are legitimately legal Indians have not got the names on the list, which is why now even the BJP that used this as a campaign tool to say we are going to throw out all the infiltrators and the illegal immigrants is now saying no, there is a problem with the processes. So if there is a problem in the process in Assam, there could be fears amongst people what will happen when it goes across the country. Let's say also good evening to Justice S.N. Dhingra, former Justice of the Delhi High Court, and Kailash Vastev, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. But Vinay, before that, I want to come to you on what we've explained to our viewers so far. It's essential to know that we have no other benchmark except Assam, which is, despite Supreme Court's presence and orders, been a very, very complicated, long drawn and a messed up exercise essentially.
Yes, and I think the absence of a benchmark has gotten compounded by the absence of communication. Because there is large-scale apprehension amongst a very vast section of people, very obviously, it was imperative and necessary that people in governance should have communicated this better. I think the communication started off by a bit of abrasiveness and a bit of non-dialogue tone, which is not exactly how it should be, especially in a law which is contentious and which is leading to fear, some of which may be unfounded, but certainly there were fears and worries. I think the Assam example should have given a little more wisdom to all these people in power, because certainly that example told you that it didn't exactly turn out the way one had anticipated, including even politically for the BJP. It's not just about, administratively, even politically it was not exactly how they had expected. And in a complex country like India, where you have different states, where different parties are now governing different states, different ethnicities and different backgrounds, it is even more imperative that the communication is extra and not less. And I think that's where the confusion has actually gone further. You've heard multiple voices and different voices, whether something as simple as is Aadhaar really admissible as a document of identity for me or not?
Yes.
There are two voices that have come out on this. People are speculating, like some people have started saying, well, Aadhaar will not be a document at all. Now others are questioning and answering, but how can Aadhaar not be? It was supposed to be the ultimate document for identity. So there is a lot of myth and a lot of information floating around. And I think the absence of communication formally and properly with all the stakeholders has actually made it probably worse.
Okay, in fact, let me bring in Justice Dhingra on this as well. Justice Dhingra, it looks like the conversation has now gone from the validity or the constitutionality of the Citizenship Amendment Act more to about what will happen between the CAA and the NRC put together. Now, essentially, people don't even know what a citizenship certificate is. So if tomorrow somebody comes to me and says, oh, your Aadhaar is not going to count, you need to give us a citizenship certificate, that may get problematic. Do we need another registry?
You see, we must first make distinction between the law and the implementation of law. Do we agree that such a law is not bad law, and implementation may be good or bad is something different? NRC is a National Register of Citizens. What objection can people have if the state maintains a National Register of Citizens and is able to know who are the illegal entrants at different stages? If we don't have National Register of Citizens, the state would never know how many illegal people have entered from which place and where they are settling. So let us first come to this decision, whether such a maintaining of such a register is in the national interest or not? Why objections are being raised that it is not being implemented? Tell me one law which is being implemented properly. Are we implementing CRPC properly? Are we implementing Constitution itself properly? Have we given right of equality to all people as enshrined in the Constitution? I say whether even in Supreme Court, whether the right of equality is being given to everybody. Is it not being given only to the people who have money or who engage people, advocate like Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who was just speaking at your forum? You give him money and he will start arguing on any side. So what is the right of equality being? It is not being implemented. So can we abrogate right of equality from Constitution because it is not being implemented properly? So first we must come to this conclusion whether NRC maintenance is illegal or its implementation is not proper. Once we decide this, that NRC in itself is not an illegal idea, it is in national interest, the niceties of implementation can always be tackled with. If in Assam the people have not found their way, the government has come with a solution that you can appeal to the tribunal. If the still government finds that this is also has not acted properly, the government will come up with another solution for those who, despite being genuine entrant before March 1971, have not found the way in the list. Same way, I fail to understand this Citizenship Act, why so much hue and cry is being made. Whether it is basically illegal, have we discriminated, have this government gone against the Constitution? Where does Constitution say that the government of India will treat all religions of Pakistan, Afghanistan equally in India?
Right.
And will treat all citizens of Pakistan and Afghanistan equally in India. I have not found. This Constitution is meant for people of India. We, the people of India, has given this Constitution to ourselves. We the people of Pakistan, has not given this Indian Constitution to ourselves.
Okay.
So, this whole controversy which is being raised must be understood how it is wrong or right. Can the state not say that the people of these religions who basically belong to India and unfortunately in division got in those countries after independence and they were persecuted, they are welcome in this country because they are in the other country.
But that's already there. No, but Justice Jingra, I think I take your point, and you know, as far as the legality is concerned, of course, you have a better view and you are the better judge of that. But I'm simply saying that that always existed in our country. That law, that under our constitution, that process was already available for any of these refugees who are here to apply for citizenship and get the citizenship. What's obviously essentially happened now is the government has said, but you specifically, you guys, I am going to favor you a little bit more and fast track the whole process for you, and that, you know, within 6 years, if you can get it.
You have to understand, anybody, any illegal migrant, any illegal migrant which is in India and can apply for citizenship.
Correct.
But another ground has been added for those who have been religiously persecuted.
Only in these three countries, because we don't.
Not persecuted in
because,
Pakistan
but the problem for many Indians is that it sends out a message that we are selective with our humanitarian actions.
Three countries.
We are selective with our humanitarian actions. We only feel for the refugees of, you know, of people who are persecuted on religious grounds. Only from these three countries, not when it comes to Myanmar.
We are openly selective.
Yes, so that could be a problem as what we stand for as a country.
I am saying our constitution is openly selective.
Okay.
Have you please read the constitution?
Yes.
It is openly selective. It prepared a list of scheduled castes where it says these castes are to be preferred. It is selective. These costs were added from time to time by the Parliament, Act of Parliament. More costs were added in that. This was selective. Thereafter, other backward classes were formed. This was selective. The person who is considered backward or scheduled caste on the ground of history, on the ground that his forefathers were persecuted in India on the ground of caste. Today, son of a Chief Justice of India, if he is scheduled caste, he gets preference over a poor man who did not have the same caste. Today, the son of President of India, if he is scheduled caste, get preference in all fields of education, selection, everywhere, against a poor man who did not have that.
Fair enough. No, so I understand, you know, and I will go ahead 2 steps to what you are saying, Justice Jingra. Yes, and I will even say that that is also perhaps one of the reasons, Justice Jingra.
Time and again said,
my apologies, I'm interrupting, but I also need to take a 20-second commercial break, which is why I'm being forced to, you know, interrupt you. But I will also take it to 2 steps ahead, Justice Jingra, and say that perhaps that is also why people are coming out on the streets. When they see that laws are not being implemented on ground properly, when they see that the Constitution is not being upheld in reality properly, they are perhaps also why they are so angry tonight, why they have lost the faith in the judicial system or the political system, and then now in a larger sign of a big movement, they're all coming ahead. Mr. Kailash Vasudev, I request you to stay on with me for just 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, we are going to be back and we will continue this conversation where we are breaking down every complicated angle and decoding it for our viewers on NRC, on CAA. Our phone lines are open. If you have questions, do call in. And 7 different points and questions that you may have. This is simply about facts and nothing else. Now, we were having a conversation on the need for an NRC and why there are fears about it, perhaps of the way it was implemented in Assam. Is there a need for an NRC? We heard what Justice Jingra said, Mr. Kailash Vasudev. I thought the entire country just went through the exercise of Aadhaar and we all just simply managed to get over with that. Now we are being told we have to figure out another proof of being Indian.
Good evening. We are living in explosive times. Explosions within our communities, within our systems, within our citizenship does not augur well for all of us. It is there, we have to deal with it. Let's analyze what is transpiring and how it is coming about. The issue of illegal migrants in this country has been a burning issue since not now, but since 1947 and onwards. It started with Bengal, it started with Assam, where people had influxes coming in post-partition. To sort this out, the first of the accords or the first arrangements which were made came into force in Assam following the Accord of 1985, when it was decided that they would have a cut-off date of 1971 for those who wanted to become citizens of India. The decision of the government then translated into judicial orders in the constitution of the NRC in Assam. NRC was in operation in Assam in 51. It was not given effect to. Supreme Court said implement it. It has been implemented. A report has been given in August of 2019 that 3.11 crores have been accepted, 19 lakhs have been rejected. Look at the All India PAN. There has been no NRC in India since 1947. Assam had it in 51. This didn't take place anywhere in India till date. Between 1947 and date, we have had migrant situations all the time. You've had people coming in from Tamil Nadu, coming into Tamil Nadu from Sri Lanka. You've had people coming in from Burma. You've had the people coming in from Pakistan. You've had people coming in from Afghanistan. You've had the whole influx of the Tibetans into India. You are at the moment dealing with a situation where you've amended the Citizenship Act, Citizens Act, essentially for the purposes of 3 countries. But on the other side, you have the Citizens Act, you have the provisions of the Constitution, which give you protections here. Justice Dhingra mentioned equality. Equality means equal status for all. Mr. Jingrai does not mean an advocate can't take a brief on payment by the other side. That is a professional duty. That is not equality. Let's keep a distinction there. Going further, look at the NRC system. We've had no NRC in our country since 1947. You are seeking to implement it after an assessment is made under the Citizens Act. Whom are you going to test the citizens of this country? There have been 3 or 4 definitions under the Citizens Act. Of course, under Article of the Constitution, Parliament has absolute power to determine and make out any law pertaining to citizenship. It's a prerogative of government. Prerogative of government in a manner which is going to cause unrest is going to have its own fallouts. You cannot possibly turn around and tell everybody that, look, please prove your citizenship after 72 years of independence. If you're going to ask for that, well, people are going to raise heckles, they're going to get agitated, and there is going to be a certain amount of angst as to what in God's name is happening. I ask a second question. Assuming that the NRC has come in after the Citizens Act, you've now got a National Register of Citizens, which you will possibly complete in period XYZ. At the end of XYZ period, you determine a certain number of people to be illegal immigrants in India and not entitled to stay here. How are you going to deport them? Which country is going to accept it? And how are you going to prove that they're not citizens of India, having had resided here for years together? There are connotations under the Citizens Act which say residence in India over a certain period of time, having had got certain employment. Now, this is one side of it. Flip side. Most people who stay in India, including people from neighboring countries who come here for employment, be it the people in the army are working as the Gurkhas, be it people coming in from different areas, they are given all sorts of identity cards. They even manage to get PAN cards. They also manage to get Aadhaar cards. There has been no test or no finding out as to how many fake Aadhaar cards have been given. They've been a matter of judicial debate. How are you going to determine what the parameters of the NRC are? How are you going to determine whether the person is a legal or illegal migrant? The fallouts come because of bad implementation. If the NRC was there, you should have started it from 1950, after the Constitution came into force. What stopped you? What stopped government from taking action in these circumstances? Why are we today driving ourselves into a situation where we are igniting passions, igniting fears, igniting situations?
Yes.
Although there is no fundamental base for such actions of burning, rioting and the like, there is no basis for it, but it is being fanned by political parties or for people for personal gains.
Well, let me just say this, Mr.
Private
Vasudev.
cars, you've damaged properties worth hundreds of thousands of rupees.
Let me just say this, Mr. Vasudev. Yes. There will always be political parties who are looking to cash in on any kind of opportunity. Let me also say there will always be lumpen elements and hooligans, violent
Correct.
elements who will resort to this. But largely what we've seen in our country today is a message that is going to the government. Now, many people may not even be extremely clear about what CAA and NRC will do, because frankly, the government itself hasn't announced what will happen. A lot of it is simply a sign of the fact that we don't trust what may happen next. Some people have fears, and that is being fueled by political parties, of course. And I want to give you one example, and I want to give this example to our viewers as well. Every time we now speak about Citizenship Amendment Act and the documents that are required, and then say a national NRC and the documents that are required, there is so much confusion. The whole fear is stemming from the fact that what if I'm not able to prove my citizenship? Well, we don't know what documents will be needed. Amit Shah, Vinay, was at our event just this week, just 3 days ago. And we asked him specifically this question. And well, he said, no, Aadhaar is not a proof of your citizenship. And that was a big comment that he had made there. Just yesterday now, these government sources have released and started circulating these FAQs. And if you see in that FAQ, there is a specific question which says, well, I have to provide details of birth of parents to prove my Indian citizenship. It goes on to say it would be sufficient for you to provide details of your birth date, month and place. If you don't have those details, you will have to provide the same of your parents. However, a decision is yet to be taken on acceptable documents. This is likely to include voter card, passport, Aadhaar, insurance papers, birth certificate, school leaving. For some reason, it doesn't mention it does mention passport, but these are likely to. So there is no clarity, and the government won't give us any.
Yes, and I think that's why I'm insisting that I think the government has gotten horribly wrong. And they've underestimated the element of nervousness that perhaps people have now currently, for the simple reason that, as I said a couple of days ago as well,
right.
people are watching this particular development as a sequence and not as an isolated act.
Correct.
And this sequential adding up of what has happened in the last couple of years is making them a little more nervous. That is part A. Part B. When you have a situation like this where people are apprehensive about any situation, it is necessary that the communication comes which is more direct and more intimate. It cannot be passive communication by release of FAQs through just social media or press releases, because that's passive communication. You really need to put a face to that communication. Possibly even the Prime Minister. I mean, he's addressed the nation on many aspects in the past at prime time, and surely he can do this as well in this case as well, because here you have a situation where the violence or the protests or the unrest seems to have spread in many parts. Communication being direct is the key, and clarification of many things is the key to bring some tempers down. There is one other thing which may look seemingly unconnected with this, but to me is extremely important, which is this. In all the states where violence has taken place or where lumpen elements have actually infiltrated mobs, I have my personal senses, or at least the police doesn't seem to have advertised that fact, which is this, that there seems to be a bit of a slowdown in terms of the preventive detentions that you can do under 10751, which Mr. Kailash Vasudevan knows that better. I'm not the lawyer, but I can still tell you that the CRPC allows preventive detentions, bound downs, externments, various techniques where you can identify people who are known to create trouble and remove them from jurisdictional boundaries or bound them down till the event and action is over. What has happened in the last few days is that even legitimate protests have started looking like illegitimate because 100, 200, 300 criminals have entered those crowds and have started burning down vehicles and throwing stones. And that is changing the discourse. In a situation like this, to try and take advantage of the discourse is actually going to be proved to be counterproductive. To seek political advantage in this discourse where miscreants are getting in and creating trouble, I think is a very dangerous strategy, and it's a strategy that can well backfire or make or lead to some very heavy costs.
And everywhere you see, even in the protests that happened in the evening and the march that was taking place, and you were explaining that to our viewers at that point of time, the police very clearly said that the lumpen elements who came and started pelting stones actually came from outside. So every time they've not been part of the organized peaceful protest, but it's been somebody who's come from outside. 5 people have died in Uttar Pradesh, 2 have died in Karnataka, and there has been there obviously have been multiple incidences of violence that have taken place in the national capital in the past 1 week. All of these places are where the BJP is in government or controls the police. And exactly the question I asked Prashant, a reporter from UP, to say, well, how many people have been taken into preventive custody? If they know and they impose Section 144, do they now need to do more?
I just wanted to add one other thing. You see, there have been 2 very contentious things that have happened in the past couple of months where no violence happened at all.
Yes.
The Ayodhya verdict came out. It was completely peaceful.
Yes.
This was the same police force in every single state, and nothing has happened. Even when the 370 was struck down in Kashmir, outside of Kashmir, nothing really happened.
Sabrimala.
And Sabrimala as well. The judgment came out. There is no violence that happened.
Okay. So before we move on to the next angle, and angle number 4 is coming up next, so lots more of explainers, and I want to remind our viewers our phone lines are also open. If you have specific questions related to CAA or NRC, then please call up and we will try and give you all the information that we are doing anyways to help you form an informed opinion. The opinion will be yours, the information is what comes from us. Mr. Kailash Vasudev, you wanted to make one more point. Go ahead, please.
See, there is an element here, and I take it from Vivek. The positions of government should be absolutely crystallized and made open to the people. Today, we are having a situation where everything is being hedged around. A statement was made today by government that we will consider and consult everybody for the purposes of the NRC.
Yes.
If you're going to consult people and announce that you're going to make an NRC, you're at this point of time igniting the fire again. Let there be an investigation into these violence activities. Let us see who is responsible. If you say it is lumpen elements, or it is criminals, or it is stage managed, or it is financed, or whatever, police have the power, magistrates have the power. Why not look into this? If you are able to find out the cause and the persons responsible for this violence, because when we see TV interviews of people, they don't know the difference between what is an NRC, they don't know what is a CAA. They're only using these words by way of, should I say, mob fury, that there's going to be an NRC, we will be affected, we are suspicious, and the like. So therefore, A, a correct statement by government as to what the positions are. B, an investigations into violence, identify people who have been pelting stones or burning vehicles. You have everything on videos today. It doesn't take a long time to do it. And if they are found to have participated in violence, please put them to the stake, make them pay for what they have done.
Absolutely.
That will be the only way to stop this.
Yes.
On the other side, a clarification and a position of government as to where we stand will make it absolutely plain as to what this is all about. Make it very clear, NRC has not come into force, and when it comes into force, we will see. But at the moment, it's CAA for the limited purposes for which the amendment was carried out.
Oh yes, absolutely,
This
Mr. Kailash
in
Vasudev,
itself
and I
will
agree
stop the
with you when you say that there has to be a strict action against these lumpen elements. But this is not the story. I mean, this is a part of the story, and violence cannot be tolerated at any point. But others, and those who've come out peacefully in hundreds and thousands over the last 6 days, their voice also counts, and that must be heard. You cannot sideline all of them saying, oh, this is just something that's been organized by the opposition and being fueled by the opposition. Mr. Kailash Vasudev, thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast. Always a pleasure to have you with us. I want to just turn our attention to some more news reports that we've got for you before we move on to angle number 4. Now, let's also tell you what happened in Mumbai today, where protests were held at the Crawford Market and in Kulla, 2 different places in South Mumbai and then suburban Mumbai. Protesters took to the streets and made their point in a very, very peaceful manner with placards and slogans. Take a look.
If we can show you around, the protesters are there present in huge numbers. The exact area where I'm standing right now is next to Shalimar Hotel. This is in Kurla area. This comes in the central suburbs of Mumbai. And if my video journalist Anil Shinde can show you the kind of presence this mass gathering has collected today in the Kurla area. There are around 1,000 to 2,000 people present in this particular spot. I can quickly show you with flags in their hand and also at the same time banners saying their objection or raising their objections against the CAA, that is the Citizenship Act. They are here to express their protest against this. Remember, this comes only a day after when we saw a massive gathering at Congress Kranti Maidan in Mumbai yesterday. Up to 10,000 people had gathered there, and the protest here continues. This is Kurla area which we are talking about, one of the essential central suburbs locality of Mumbai, where you can see the protest here, the movement here, actually the mass gathering here from people has begun.
कि ये ऐसे ही सीए के एक तरफ सारे नॉन मुस्लिम्स को इन लोग सिटीजनशिप देंगे और एक तरफ मुसलमानों को सिटीजनशिप नहीं देंगे। अब मुसलमान बेचारा गरीब तबके का, इसमें हिंदू मुसलमान सारे लोग आते हैं। जो गरीब तबके के लोग हैं वो कहाँ से साबित करेंगे? हम हिंदुस्तानी और हम ही को बोला जा रहा है कि आप हिंदुस्तानी साबित करो। ये कहाँ का कानून है? जब अपने पास पहले से सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं तो ये एनआरसी लाने की जरूरत नहीं है। इसके पीछे हजारों करोड़ जो खर्चा होगा, मेन मुद्दा तो वो कहाँ से आएगा? पहले सरकार इसका तो कुछ बताए कि भाई ये हम कहाँ से लाएंगे।
हम लोग किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से नहीं है। सारे मुसलमान भाई जितने भी हमारे हिंदू मुस्लिम भाई हैं, जो भी CAB के खिलाफ है, NRC के खिलाफ है, वो सब लोग घर से बाहर निकले हैं। वो ये जताना चाहते हैं कि यह सरकार, हिंदुस्तान के अंदर एक सेकुलर गवर्नमेंट होनी चाहिए और गवर्नमेंट की सोच भी हमेशा जो है सेकुलर होना चाहिए, संविधान के अनुसार होना चाहिए।
हमारे गृह मंत्री साहब ने कहा कि इससे एक धर्म विशेष को बाहर रखा जाएगा। तो अब आप इस प्रक्रिया को जब NRC से जोड़ेंगे तब आप देखेंगे इसका दुष्परिणाम क्या होगा। तो आप ये बेहतर जानते हैं। तो इसलिए हमारा ये जो विरोध है, ये आपके चैनल के माध्यम से हम ये कह देना चाह रहे हैं कि जब तक सरकार इस बिल पर पुनर्विचार नहीं करेगी, यह आंदोलन इसी प्रकार से जारी रहेगा।
ये पूरी साजिश चली है केंद्र सरकार की, हम लोग इसका पूर्ण विरोध कर रहे हैं और चाहते हैं केंद्र सरकार के वापस ले हुए कानून।
Okay, let's move on to angle number 4. What does a national NRC entail? That's what we're going to talk about right now, because essentially now more people seem to be concerned about a nationwide NRC than anything else. So point number one is that the Home Minister is actually the one who in multiple interviews and also inside the Parliament has spoken about the intent of the BJP and the government to bring about a nationwide NRC. Now, if you take a look at this point, it's already implemented in only Assam. But the BJP in its own manifesto has promised to bring it across the country. In fact, Home Minister has gone on to say, next time we come to ask for your votes, I would have implemented this, which essentially means before 2024. Though officially, the government has not issued any timeline, any format of what the National Registry of Citizens, NRC, will look like. In fact, they say, and this is all they largely say, is that nationwide NRC will help remove illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants will be identified and then removed. The centre is yet to specify what documents will be needed to prove your citizenship. This is a very important point. You would have got multiple posts, multiple WhatsApp forwards and Facebook and Twitter posts about saying whether Aadhaar will count or passport will count or not count. There are mixed signals coming in because the Home Minister himself told us that Aadhaar isn't really a proof of citizenship. But now the government sources have circulated these FAQ documents that say, well, passport or Aadhaar or voter card, all of these are documents that can be looked at. We haven't yet decided essentially. So don't get too worried. Yes, there may be a possibility that every single citizen, when the government decides, will be asked to prove their citizenship, prove where you were born, who your parents were. But there is no official form to this yet. Now, why is it more complicated? Because people are fearing that between the NRC and CAA, if you bring both of them together, that's where the explosion really takes place. And that's where the big concern is. With the NRC, you identify who all are not Indian citizens. Could be some who are unable to prove their citizenship. And then you say, oh, amongst these 6 religions from these 3 countries can stay. Everybody else is thrown out. So if you look at what protesters are saying, and this is just information based on why people are protesting. Protesters say legitimate Indians could be excluded from the NRC. That's their biggest concern right now. And what if we are not able to prove our citizenship? And Indian Muslims are not able to, the poor ones who don't have documents or who've lost everything in a fire, in a flood, and don't have anything to prove, then what happens to them? Do they get thrown out? Point number 2, non-Muslims get excluded from NRC, but could gain because of the Citizen Amendment Act. Now again, this is simply a big fear and a lot of speculation. There is absolutely no evidence to suggest this could happen yet because the government hasn't defined national NRC. Point number 3 is that the loophole may only benefit non-Muslims, which is why it's discriminatory. The government says there is no legal Indian. Legally, if you are Indian, you will not be impacted due to NRC and CAA. The documents needed for NRC are yet to be finalized, and that those seeking citizenship under CAA also need to prove their refugee status. So it's not as if you can stand up and say, well, I'm from Bangladesh and I'm a Hindu, so give me citizenship. You will still need to provide some documents. So that's essentially the 2 sides of the whole story. Let's say good evening to Siddharth Luthra, former Additional Solicitor General, joining us this evening. Justice V.M. Kannade, former Judge of the Bombay High Court, and Vinita Varia, Managing Editor, continues to stay with us. And Justice Kannade, I'm going to come to you on, this whole CAA plus NRC. Do you believe that's where more fear is emerging from, though we don't really know what the national NRC is going to look like?
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. See, first of all, let us get down to basics. The Constitution of India, particularly Part 2, talks about citizenship. Section 5 talks about who is a citizen at the commencement of the Constitution of India. Then Section 6 talks about those who have migrated from Pakistan and other states. And Article 11 then says that the Parliament has the sole right of regulating citizenship by making a law. Now this power is given by entry 17 of Schedule 7. Now, the Supreme Court in 1962 has said that this power is very wide and unfettered, and the Parliament can regulate the citizenship irrespective of what is mentioned in Article 5 to 10. Now, thereafter, in 1951, in view of power vested in it, the Parliament vested in it by Article 11, the Parliament passed the National Citizenship Register Act, NRC Act. Now, what does NRC Act say? NRC Act talks about a National Register of Citizens, which has to be maintained, and Section 14 of the Act states that it can have a National Register of Citizens. Now, so far, no rules have been framed in respect of the National Register of Citizens, and as yet there is no structure, though comment may have been made by the Home Minister that they plan to do it. As far as today is concerned, there is no such rules, there is no such structure.
Correct.
Number two, Section 14A has been amended and introduced only for the sake of Assam. And it says that those who are residing or domiciled in Assam up to 1971 would become citizens of India. And therefore, separate rules were prepared, and those rules stipulate that if you have the documents mentioned in Schedule A and Schedule B, you can be admitted as citizens.
Okay.
Accordingly, this was done in 1951. That was 1971. It was not amended till recently when this exercise was undertaken by the government. And thereafter now, again, this Amendment Act, Citizenship Amendment Act has come into force. Now, the Citizenship Amendment Act, if you look at it closely, you will observe that it talks about illegal immigrants in India. Now, these illegal immigrants, therefore, except Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, etc., have been given right to claim citizenship, where there is a restriction on Muslims to claim citizenship, those who have illegally entered after 2014. Before 2014, because that is a cutoff date.
That is a cutoff
Now let
date.
us talk about the National Register of Citizens.
You know, one very important point that you made is that there is a restriction on Muslims. It doesn't absolutely outrightly, the amended act doesn't say that Muslims, outsider Muslims will not be given citizenship. It's just that for these people, it can be fast-tracked and made easier. But let me come to the point of NRC. And what does it entail for an Indian, Siddharth Luthra, to prove our citizenship? Now, there is a lot of conversation and concern about that. We only have the example of Assam, but maybe things will be differently defined for the rest of the country. Does my Aadhaar count? Is my passport a proof of my citizenship? Can you help our viewers understand what could it be?
Well, are you?
Yeah, let me just take that question across to Mr. Luthra, Justice Kannade, and I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Okay.
The 1955 law that Justice Kannade mentioned, gets amended in the year 2004 to have a national register of citizens, and that's where that section 14A comes in. The government desired at that time that there will be a national register of citizens, and it was applied, as he said, to Assam. It is now proposed to be applied to the rest of India. The problem that we are facing with the amendment, coupled with the NRC, is that the amendment is considered wholly discriminatory, something that the Constitution of India does not permit. We are a country which treats all communities and religions alike. And the question really is, if you have a Citizenship Amendment Bill which classifies citizens on the basis of religion, although originally, as per international and historical laws, citizenship is by descent or by birth. And that is how we define citizenship in the Indian Constitution, and that's how it was understood in the Citizenship Act as well. Today, we are adding a new parameter, which is religion as a categorization for consideration for citizenship or not to be ousted from India. And that's a serious concern, because you have, for example, Tamils, you have people, the Rohingyas from Burma, you have certain Shia communities from other countries, you have the Ahmadiyas from Pakistan, who are also considered to be discriminated against. And in fact, we have given shelter to a large number of Rohingyas, and even Tamils have come from Sri Lanka and settled in this country because they were ousted from their homeland. So there is a problem when you start bringing in religion, and especially in a country which treats all persons from all religions alike. That's one part, and that's a concern. The second is the NRC. Now, I have a concern with the NRC, and that is this. Today, the NRC, as it has been touted, leaves many of us in doubt. There are people like me. My family came from West Punjab, from Pakistan. We settled here. Fortunately, we have papers of passports, of birth certificates. But supposing I was to ask, I was to want to prove that my grandfather was an Indian citizen, I fortunately will have to look in his papers. He's been dead now for about 25 years. I'll have to look and find whether I can get his refugee card, which he had. Now, that's all very well for me living in Delhi. What do you do with a poor person, a person who's, works as, let's say, labor or works in a temporary job, moving from place to place? How are they going to establish their identity? Now, we know that Indians have ration cards at times, Indians have, some have Aadhaar cards, but the NRC, at one level you can say the NRC is a good thing, because we need to know who are citizens, who are not, and we need to ensure that people who are not citizens should either be registered as foreigners, as aliens, or if they are here illegally, then the law should take its own course. But today, when there is a doubt between these two mechanisms of Citizenship Amendment Bill and the NRC, and we are told the Citizenship Amendment Bill affects only a small number of people, but there is so much lack of clarity in the public at large that you have widespread protests which are breaking out all over the country, and that's a serious concern. So, I hope the government of the day addresses these issues, because this is not the way for a civilized society to be. There is a serious concern, and this concern is not just in your and my minds, it's the concern of many Indians who have a vague idea of what these two creatures, the Citizenship Amendment Bill and the NRC is.
Yes.
And that needs to be addressed today, and
Yes,
it needs to be addressed on priority.
We cannot emphasize more on that point.
Discrimination, the apprehension of discrimination needs to be dealt.
Oh yes, and that's exactly the point that you've been making. But we cannot emphasize more on the point. The government needs to be clearer on this. You can't have such wide-scale apprehensions, which also, in a way, I feel is a sign of people not being able to trust what the government is going to do next.
Yes, so I'll give you an example of something that happened in this country at a mass level, which was not controversial at all, and the difference in the communication strategy. This is when the Aadhaar scheme was being first rolled out.
Right.
The level of the outreach from the government in trying to explain to people what that scheme was all about and how it could be done was extensive. Remember that not everybody is as legally and judiciously wise as Mr. Luthra or Mr. or Justice Kanade, who's on our panel. We have ordinary Indians who can barely understand half of the government documents, forget about legalese, and these are laws. There is enough and more scope for not just the people to misunderstand, but also for slightly crooked elements in our society to actually misinform people as well, which is also happening. We've seen videos of certain political activists in many areas who are trying to mislead people by telling them which is not information that is not always correct.
Right.
In a democracy, in a country of our size, I think any wise government should anticipate this kind of mischief mongering. And to preempt that, you need a very effective and a very consistent and a very high level of communication strategy in an organized manner. I cannot believe, and I'm not ready to accept, that nobody in our government
agree,
did not know that this kind of a contentious law will not create some kind of an unrest. And to prevent that unrest, you really need two things. You need very effective and clear communication, which is simplified for a common man to understand, and you need very strong action on the ground by the boots that you have in terms of the police forces who take preventive action against people who can create trouble and spread misinformation. That is absolutely imperative.
Nice.
You saw the distinction between what happened in UP and Karnataka yesterday and what happened in Maharashtra. I can't keep making that point enough. There were two states where you applied a preventive law in blanket manner in two states and violence happened. In Maharashtra, no blanket application or even a remote application was made and no violence happened, simply because of the manner in which the Mumbai police handled that protest as opposed to what perhaps happened in UP and Karnataka. I think there's a lesson to be drawn there. We've not proved to be as wise as we should have been for a law which we knew was contentious.
Yes, oh, absolutely. There is one more point that I wanted to bring to both of you, because that also, you know, there is a lot of confusion, and the argument that happens is whether or not the CAA is constitutional or not constitutional. And of course, at some point, perhaps a larger constitutional bench of the Supreme Court will hear this matter perhaps. But in your own view, Justice Kannade, the whole argument that this is against our constitution, do you agree?
I believe that it's a very complex issue, and the matter is already before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And at this stage, to make any comment would be sub judice, because it is really a very complex issue.
Okay.
Rules have not been framed so far, and we don't know about the national NRC. Possibly they will, like the 2004 amendment to 14A amendment, they have Schedule A, Schedule B, which also talks about any other legally permissible document. So maybe all those things will be, but I agree with brother here who has said that more communication from the government is required, and they should come out cleanly and point out, because there are so many apprehensions and their fears of the minority community must be allayed at the earliest. Because merely passing an act because you have a majority is not sufficient. You need to allay the fears of the minority community that we do not propose to do what the apprehensions are expressed now, and sooner the better. And I am happy that in Mumbai the protests were really peaceful.
Yes.
And hats off to the Indian Bombay police for handling the situation. And I welcome the protest, because that shows that our democracy is alive.
Yes.
Ultimately, our Supreme Court is competent to take a decision, and we should not stoke the fires at this stage. And already our economy is in doldrums, and it should not aggravate the situation. I would appeal to all citizens to remain
calm and peaceful, but make their point if they want.
I'm quite sure that a solution will be found.
Yes. You know, well, I just want to put this out there that we had Harish Salve
certainly.
You know, on our panel a few days ago, and Harish Salve said, yes, Mr. Luth, I'm just coming to you.
If I may just say something.
Okay, please, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying was, I must confess at the outset, I'm appearing for one of the petitioners who's challenged the Citizenship Amendment Bill.
Yes.
And the ground of challenge which the court is considering, and which is going to be considered next month, is that it is absolutely discriminatory. It is contrary to the secular nature of our constitution and the basic structure of our constitution, which is very clear. And that is the point that is being made. That is going to be tested in court. And therefore, I would also appeal that citizens should not take the law into their own hands. But you can't stop citizens from protesting, especially peaceful protests, because there is a sense of apprehension, there's a sense of agitation, and any administration at any level must hear it when citizens come out of the street. It really shows that they are not being able to address their concerns through their elected representatives who are supposed to carry their voice to Parliament. And if that's the position, people will have no option. And we are not living 40 years ago. We're living in an age of technology where everybody has a view and they want to express it. And that is why you see the conglomeration, the gathering of people on the streets of every city, every town, every village.
Okay, but Mr. Luthra, just for my understanding, because many people ask us this question.
That will not stop till these issues are addressed.
Many people ask us this question, that what's wrong? Any Muslim from any part of this world can still apply for citizenship, can still register for citizenship. It's given under the previous Citizenship Act as well, even in the amended one. It's just that for these 6 communities who were religiously persecuted in only these 3 countries, the government has come out with an additional set of rules. So what's wrong? We are still not denying or excluding anybody. What would you say to that?
My response to that is that there are other communities which are discriminated within these nations. Why could we not simply have brought out a law which said anybody who is a minority and persecuted will be protected under the Amendment Act? Why did we have to name specific religions? That is the problem. And that is something which should have been countenanced by those who drafted this legislation in the first place. And that's the real challenge in the Supreme Court.
Okay, Siddharth Luthra and Justice Kannade.
As I said, you have, there are, if I may...
Yes, please, go ahead.
If I may just add, why just these 3 countries?
Correct.
Why just these 3 countries? So you have a date classification, you have a religious classification, you have a 3-country classification. Frankly, why not Burma? Why not Sri Lanka? Why not Nepal? Why not Bhutan? All these countries are in our closest vicinity, and there are people who are being persecuted there. Essentially, if we want to give people refuge, are we going to test them on the anvil of religion, or are we going to test them on the anvil of persecution? My view would be we test them on the anvil of persecution, not religion, not community.
Okay, it will be very interesting when this gets played out.
That's the issue with this law.
In the courtrooms of the Supreme Court, we've had various top legal voices who've come and and spoken to us in the last week or 10 days, and varied views. So I actually just want to put it out there for our viewers that while you've heard what Justice Kannade said and Siddharth Luthra said, and you earlier heard Abhishek Manu Singhvi, jurists and top legal minds have very different views. So the debate on the constitutionality of it is still open, and perhaps someday Supreme Court will decide on this. Justice Kannade and Siddharth Luthra, appreciate you joining us and clearing some of our doubts that people may have. Now, very quickly, let's also tell you what happened in Bengaluru today. Karnataka is one state that imposed a blanket Section 144 and a set of restrictions across the state day before itself, starting yesterday morning, in fact. In Bengaluru, for 2nd straight day, hundreds of people, students this time specifically, came out to stage a protest at the Bengaluru Central University. They demanded that the Karnataka government withdraw police deployment across colleges and universities in the state.
Well, several students have in fact gathered here at the Central College grounds in Bengaluru to stage their protest and voice their concern against the CAA and the NRC as well. What you're seeing is in fact at this point in time students who actually just risen up in protest, and this is despite Section 144 actually being imposed here in Karnataka in Bengaluru as well. Let's actually talk to one of the protesters and find out what their demands really are, because these are in fact going to continue. Hi, so first of all, I want to ask you, a lot of students have come out to protest over here today. What are your main demands?
Main demand is to remove all police deployment from every educational institution in this country. Universities, schools, colleges are temples to students. If faith is respected in this country, you need to respect the faith of the students, of the teachers, of the educators. This is not how a democracy works. This is not how we will make our country run.
They don't stop, we are not going to stop, because this is our fundamental right to stand for others who can't, and in these grave situations we will stand by Jamia.
We are against NRC CAA, and students who have gathered here are united. We will fight against NRC. I hope all here, most of them are not coming on based on the religions. They come as the humans and they'll fight against India. And I asked to save Mangalore. As you all know what has happened in Mangalore yesterday, we condemn it, and every student here condemn the attack in Mangalore.
We will actually have to wait and see till how long the students will continue their protests, as yes, despite Section 144 being imposed, they seem not to be deterred at all, and the protests in fact are going to continue is what they've maintained. With video journalist Sunil, this is Neha Hebale for Mirror Now in Bengaluru.
In the midst of all the protests opposing Citizenship Amendment Act across the country, in Chennai today, there was a very different set of protests that actually took place. There was a rally that was held in favor of the CAA that was actually called in by the BJP workers. Shops were shut, security was stepped up in Coimbatore as well. But here's a report that Pramod got for us from the Pro-CAA rally organized by the BJP.
At Valokottam right now, the same place where actually there was a protest yesterday that was led by various civic societies, and today this is BJP that is holding the protest at this area, and BJP's leader H. Raja, National Secretary, is the one who's actually going to lead the protest here, and you could see the crowd. This is a crowd that has assembled at the spot, and this is a crowd that is supporting CAA and NRC, and that's the reason they are over here. And the organization also claims that they are protesting against DMK and Congress, which according to them is providing false information about CAA and NRC, and that's the reason they are protesting at this spot. This is Valokottam, the very exact spot there, where the protest occurred yesterday, by various others against NRC and CAA. Sir, in the protest, why are you participating in this protest? What is the reason? இந்த protestல participate பண்ற காரணம் என்ன? இங்க வந்திருக்கீங்களா இந்த போராட்டத்துல
பிஜேபிக்கு ஆதரவு தெரிவிக்கும் ஒட்டுமொத்தமா தமிழ்நாட்டு சார்பில்
சரி இது NRC CAA சம்பந்தமான விஷயம்
அவர் கொண்டு வந்த சட்டத்தை ஆதரிக்கிறோம் எதிர்மனத்தோட ஆதரிக்கிறோம்.
There you could see the protesters claim that they wholeheartedly support CAA and NRC, and that's the reason they are at this spot right now. Why do you support CAA and NRC here?
No, there have been protests against CAA everywhere. There are also a group of people who want to support CAA. So this is the crowd that supports the act.
See, that's the reason you're here now.
Yes, of course.
And what about DMK and Congress? It is also being said that the protests are against them because according to the BJP they are providing fake information. Is that so?
Because we believe they are misleading the Muslims, saying that it is against their religion. So that is what we want to clear that it is not against any religion in India.
So CAA and NRC is not against Muslims?
Certainly not.
Any reason why the Muslims are being not included in CAA then?
I think they are misled by opposition parties and other parties. That is the only reason. Even the Shahi Imam of the Delhi Jama Masjid has given out a statement saying it is not against Indian Muslims.
Not against Indian Muslims. All right. So that's the reason there's huge protest at this location, Valokottam, and as you could see, this is a group that's from BJP. They are BJP volunteers who are at this spot right now protesting for CAA and NRC.
We're going to take a very short break, but on the other side is a very important segment. We're going to bust a lot of fake news that's doing the rounds during this entire protest about the NRC and the CAA. You should know your facts from the fiction and the fake news that's spreading. Stay with us. Welcome back. Fake, unconfirmed reports regarding NRC, regarding the Citizenship Act, have been doing the rounds. At some point, many say this is what has also fueled the protests across the country. Now, we here have decided to bring about some truth, bust some of this fake news for you. There are a lot of credible organizations who are doing this work on a daily basis, are tracking, pulling out the fake news and researching about it. Now, I'm going to give you 5 examples. And I'm sure many of you have actually received these posts on your social media groups, on your WhatsApp, on your Facebook. So this is just to give you a sense of the kind of fake news that's going the rounds. The first rumor that is being passed on via WhatsApp and social media is that in NRC, Aadhaar will be used to verify the citizenship. However, viewers, the fact is that the government, the Home Minister himself has clarified that right now, Aadhaar is not a proof or to guarantee you citizenship. The government itself has not decided anything on the rules for a nationwide NRC. So don't believe if you get any such post. We have no clarity on whether Aadhaar or voter card or passport or your birth certificate, your citizenship certificate, what all will be required to prove that you are an Indian. Fake news number 2 that is being circulated is about a young student who was clicked with Congress MP Rahul Gandhi when he visited her school in Malappuram. Now, this picture was used along with another picture where 2 girls could be seen standing up against the Delhi police. It was said that the girl who was with Rahul Gandhi in that picture and then one protesting on the other side were actually the same girl, to prove that all of these protests are actually politically motivated and perhaps being fueled by the Congress party. But the truth is that the girls in these two pictures are not the same. These two are different girls. One is a student in Kerala. The other one is actually a student in Delhi. Fake news number 3, which many of you might have come across on your social media, is this image in which you can see on your screen right now, a man is holding a stick wearing a police jacket. He was said to be an ABVP member named Bharat Sharma, who was actually caught in visuals also hitting protesters. In the fake news post, it was said that this man is an ABVP guy who was posing as a Delhi cop during the violent clashes in Delhi. The truth is, the man in the image with the red t-shirt and the camouflage jacket is not the same guy as Bharat Sharma. In fact, he is an actual cop named Arvind Kumar, who was part of that riot control police. Let's bust another fake news. Some images were circulated on different platforms that show policemen in Assam beating up a few people. It was said in this fake news post that Assam cops were clicked while they were beating up people not included in the NRC. No. The truth is that these are stills that were taken from an old video of an eviction drive by the Assam police that resurfaced this time around with a fake narrative. In fact, that other incident actually took place in December 2017 in Amchang forest area of Assam. Here's the next one, fake news number 5. Images of a man impersonating a burqa-clad woman was said to be a fake protester of Jamia Millia Islamia. But actually, this is an old photograph of a man from Egypt and is nowhere related to the current Jamia protest that happened last week or anything that's happened yesterday or today as well. This is a collation of information and facts and research that we've picked up from portals like the Boom Live and Alt News, along with Times Fact Check. Pooja Chaudhary, in fact, is a writer and researcher at Alt News, and they've been doing a lot of work in this segment. Pooja, thanks for joining us. Have you guys been very busy in just the last week, 10 days with all, that's circulating on social media regarding CAA and NRC?
Yeah, there's a deluge of misinformation right now. It's certainly more than we can handle. There's so much just coming in from Facebook and Twitter. There's WhatsApp, which you cannot properly monitor. Then there's Instagram. We have an app now where people keep sending us requests. So it is certainly a lot of misinformation, much more than we can handle. We're a small team of people, but we try to bust as much as possible.
What are the kind of fake news posts that you've come across? Are they largely, old videos and pictures that are now being circulated to show police brutality or to show some political connection to these protests? What's been the larger trend?
So most of the misinformation that we have received, they are circulating, yes, you are right, they're circulating old images, of violence, trying to portray that, this has occurred recently, of probably, people vandalizing or burning public property. So these images are being circulated as recent, although there has been violence, reported violence in the recent protests as well, but they're circulating old images. Then there's misinformation also from the other side where, they're showing police brutality, police excess, which did not take place during the recent protests, maybe some old video that is being circulated as recent. Then again, like the misinformation that you mentioned of this girl with Rahul Gandhi, and they were claiming that, she's one of those women who stood up against the Delhi cop, but they were unrelated. And so a lot of old images and imagery is being used to portray that, this is what's happening in the current protests.
So, help our viewers understand, Pooja, what can a common man who's getting a lot of this and who's also getting, bombarded with posts and messages and videos and pictures, how do people figure what's true and what's not?
So the work we do at Alt News, it's not very difficult actually. So mainly when it's something very visual like pictures or videos, all you need to do is just search it on Google. Or if you perform a reverse search, you just click on the image and then you search it on Google. So mostly if it's old, it comes up. or if it's a certain claim, all you need to do is quickly search it on Google. If it's authentic, then some credible media organization must have reported it. So these are basic practices that people need to take, so that you don't get misinformed, because there's so much misinformation circulating, like you said about the Aadhaar thing, but there hasn't been any announcement yet by the government. So for you to find that out, you just need to Google. That the government hasn't laid down how the NRC process is going to be conducted across the country.
Okay, but are there also lots of instances with pictures and are being photoshopped or visuals are getting morphed? Essentially, if any common man has to Google, sometimes what pops up is also what credible organizations or even top leaders and ministers have themselves tweeted or spoken about.
So the thing with fake news is it's generally very provocative in nature, because it's supposed to rouse some emotions in you so that you tend to believe it. So anything that sort of provokes you in a certain matter, you need to take a step back and ponder upon that if this is true or not. So any news that you come across that you think that is again rousing some emotions, you need to look for it, you need to search for it. You do not forward anything that you cannot verify with credible media organizations. So the thing about fact checking or saving yourself from falling for misinformation is to first question. So before you share things, you need to question, is this true or not? So again, like I said, it's not very difficult if you follow basic steps like not believing and search it on Google. It takes a couple of minutes.
I just want to highlight that a lot of work that these guys have done does point towards the fact that these posts, these WhatsApp forwards, Facebook posts are essentially meant to divide, to put in some fears, to put in some anger, to polarize people, to generally incite people. So people have to be doubly careful of what they are looking at and not just take anything and everything at face value. It's the digital era where it's not that difficult to morph pictures, to edit pictures, even visuals, pick up something, and sell it off as something else. Repeatedly here on Mirror Now as well, we've brought you videos that were doing rounds and going viral 2 years ago and doing the same thing again today, just with a different narrative. So we have to be very careful that we don't get carried away and these posts and videos and pictures don't impact our temper or our opinion. Pooja, thanks so much for joining us and helping clarify matters a little bit more. Sometimes just a simple Google and a reverse image search will just help you find out what's real and what's not. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of the Urban Debate, where the only idea was to give you all the information that we can, all the facts that we can, and not simply rhetorics or, loud debates that are actually not going to take us anywhere. We've given you the information. It's up to you to form an informed decision and an opinion on what you think about the National Register of Citizens or the Citizenship Amendment Act. Of course, the legality of CAA will now be discussed, debated, fought out in a Supreme Court courtroom.